Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 59 of Mad Knitting. My name is Susan. My pronouns are she, her, hers. You can find me elsewhere online as madtownmama on Ravelry and madtown_mama on Instagram. Today is Wednesday, April the 10th, the year 2024. And I'm coming to you from my home in Madison, Wisconsin. Excuse me. My voice sounds pretty bad today because I'm getting over a respiratory virus. And in fact, what I have in my cup is some non-drowsy cold medicine. It tastes disgusting. I have had enough of lemon flavored medicine, but I think I need it to get through the rest of today because I'm kind of afraid I'm going to lose my voice. I actually have to go to another city for work this afternoon and lead a group of people in something, and I just hope that my voice sticks with it. So maybe it's not the best idea to try to record an episode today, but I actually have a little bit of time and I felt like talking about knitting. So here we are. So if you're new to this channel, I'll introduce myself just a little bit. Like I said, my name is Susan. I work from home for a small nonprofit, so I have a flexible schedule. I've also been knitting for a very long time, ever since I was a kid. And knitting like kind of obsessively a lot for most of my adult life. So I've been at this for a while. Knitting is usually my craft of choice, although I also dabble in sewing and quilting from time to time. And sometimes I think it would be neat to learn how to do some crochet, but haven't done that yet. Okay. So in my last episode, I alluded to the fact that my family was about to take a big trip. This was about 3 weeks ago. And indeed, we took a very big trip. If you follow me on Instagram, you already know, but my husband and my 2 teenage kids and I, we went to New Zealand for 2 weeks. My oldest is about to graduate from high school, so this was like our last opportunity to do something like this, the 4 of us. So, excuse me. So we took this trip. Overall, it was really amazing. I would say that it was a little bit of a mixed bag because we all got this respiratory thing, so we had to modify some of our hiking plans. And there was one long hike we had planned early in the trip that actually got canceled because the weather was really dangerous. We wanted to do this alpine crossing. It was supposed to take all day, 7 or 8 hours. And the company that runs the shuttle to the trailhead canceled the entire week because the conditions were too dangerous up in the mountains. So we missed that. And then we were all a little under the weather for the last half of it. But that said, other than that, I mean, the scenery was amazing. We saw a lot of really cool things. The weather was actually picture perfect, except for that one hike that got scuttled. So overall, I would say it was a really good trip and one we're always going to remember. I don't necessarily like it when other people go on and on and on about their travel and their vacations. So I will just share a few highlights with you. And yes, I bought yarn, so I will share that at the end. One of the really fun things we did was tour Hobbiton. So there is a farm on the North Island where a lot of the outdoor scenes were shot for Lord of the Rings, like where the hobbits live. So that became very popular after that entire trilogy was released. So the movie, Peter Jackson and the movie people actually went back and rebuilt that whole set, and now they have it open for tour groups. So we did that. It was very cool. And now we are rewatching the movies little by little, which is fun because we can see the actual set where they filmed. And then there are a lot of other scenes in different parts of New Zealand that kind of look familiar, I guess. Another major highlight was we were in the Fiordlands National Park, which is on the South Island, kind of the southwest whole part of the South Island. And we spent a whole day doing a boat tour of one of the fjords there, which was just amazing. I mean, it took all day because we had to spend an hour taking a ferry across this big lake, and then you have to take a bus across a mountain pass that takes another hour. And then we spent 3 hours on another boat just going around around the sound. And so, I mean, the water, it was this clear, very calm day. So the water was absolutely still. And you look outside and there'd be these big mountains coming up on the side, or like this island in the middle. And one of the islands had little seals on it. So that was really cool. Anyway, we're back home, still recovering from jet lag, because that, let me tell you, that is a long haul flight. But had a great experience. So here we are. Okay, now I'm going to talk about knitting. I am wearing the Porty cardigan, which I shared all about in my last episode, so I won't go on about it here. I took this on the trip and I wore it quite a lot. This was a great layering piece for, when the temperature was, I couldn't decide if I was cool or warm, so I would like take it off, put it on, take it off, put it on. Since my last episode, excuse me, I've added buttons. These are very plain buttons that I bought at Blue Bar Quilts. It's a local quilt shop, and they have one small display of very simple buttons in just about any color you can imagine and several sizes. So that's a good source for buttons for me. I'm very happy with this sweater, and I am really looking forward to knitting more designs by Gudrun Johnston, the designer. I have some finished objects to share with you. I did a lot of knitting on that trip. We had a lot of plane time. We had a lot of car time. My husband did all of the driving. I was actually listed as a driver on the rental, but I'm the shortest in the family, and I can sit in the back seat and not get car sick. And it just kind of worked out for him to do the driving and for me and my daughter to be in the back seat. So I did a lot of knitting. I actually packed an appropriate amount of knitting projects. Usually I overdo it, but there was so much knitting that this came out just about right. So, and in my last episode, I had shared my plans, which changed a little bit, but for the most part, I stuck to them. So my first finished object is one Poca hat, which I'm sure I just pulled it off of the drying rack because I blocked it. I finished this and actually wore it quite a bit, but I didn't block it till I got home. So the outer layer is in Knit Picks Opulence, which is a merino cashmere nylon base. I used up every last scrap of the gray. That's why there's a skinny stripe up here, because I actually didn't have enough to make the full 4 rounds that I had done for the other stripes. I also used this, I don't know what the name of this is, but there's quite a bit of this blue left, which is fine. I really like this shade, and I think it'll be a good for something else or accents on something. The inside layer is Knit Picks Aloft. Actually, I have a label on this one in the color silver. So this is a mohair silk lace weight. I really like Aloft from Knit Picks. I find it very soft and easy to work with, and I just enjoy it. So this hat I chose to make, I didn't make it long enough for a fold-up brim. I decided to make it more of a, what would you call it, just a beanie, I guess? I mean, you can have a beanie with a fold-up brim, but anyway, I didn't want to fold up the brim. I wanted the stripes to show. And I had started off with the stripes right at the bottom before realizing that if I made it where you fold it up, all the stripes would be covered up. So I just decided to make the hat a little shorter. That way it would be done quicker, and it would just be a little different style than the other Poca hats that I've made. I've made a lot of hats from this pattern. It is from the book Moon and Turtle. I don't even need to use the pattern by this point because I've made 7 or 8 of them by now. But it's just a really good layered, technically it's reversible if you really wanted to have the mohair on the outside and the other yarn on the inside. But it's a little bit loose fitting. Maybe because this yarn is drapey, so it just sort of stretched out a little bit, but it's very comfortable and it's good for cool days, but doesn't overheat either. So that's one of them. I made another Poca hat. So here it is all unfolded. I have not worn this one yet because I was hoping to finish my projects in New Zealand, and this was the last project that I finished there. I actually got the lining done and, you know, pulled the ends through on the plane. We flew from Queenstown into Auckland before doing the big international flight back here. So on that first short flight is when I finished this hat. So the outside layer is Knit Circus. I don't remember the name of the base. The color might be Silver Linings, but you can see it's a very silvery gray. Really good basic neutral color. I used every last bit of this gray yarn. Like, I was afraid that I might even run out at the top, but I had just exactly enough, maybe a few yards left over. So that was nice because this was left over from some other project and it was good to use it up. The lining is a mohair silk by Republica Unicornia, and I actually have a fair amount of this left. I think I might use this up in a pair of mittens. I'll just double it up with something else to make it extra warm. This is a one-of-a-kind colorway called Cherry Bomb. I don't know if I can show you the label. That's what her label looks like. So what's cool about this yarn color is that from a distance it looks red, but when you look at it close up, it's actually like bright fuchsia and kind of an orangey red striped. Or at least it comes out as stripes when you do it at this circumference. So I really like it. My only teeny weensy complaint is that it bled a little bit on the gray when I blocked it. I don't even know if you can kind of see, I think there's just like a hint of pink on this side of the hat where the dye ran. Didn't seem to happen on the other side. I didn't move it around when I was soaking it, so it's not too bad, but it'll be something I need to be careful about when I wash this in the future. So this one, obviously I made longer. I wanted the brim to turn up because I want this bright color to show. But here I've got another nice warm winter polka hat. I think I might have too many hats. This is about the 5th one that I've made for myself at this point, just of this pattern. I have many other hats from many other patterns. And I've given away 2 or 3 of them by now too. And I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. It's just a great on-the-go pattern. It's a great way to use up leftover bits of fingering weight yarn. If you didn't have enough of a single yarn to do this outside layer, ditto the mohair silk actually. You can do stripes like I did with the blue one. It's just kind of a good blank slate for trying out different ideas. The next finished object I have was where I departed from my original plan. So in my last episode, I shared that I had gotten a surprise package with 2 skeins of yarn from a very dear friend of mine that I've known for more than 25 years, probably close to 30 years at this point. And she sent me 2 skeins of yarn by a company in Wichita that is actually founded and owned by someone who went to my alma mater, which is a really teeny tiny school in Kansas. So that kind of matters when you go to a small school and somebody else has heard of it or been there. Not at the same time. I think this Coast to Coast Yarn Company is the name of the yarn company, and I think they're a lot younger than I am. So anyway, this is the yarn she sent me. This is what I have left. And my original intention was to make 2 pairs of socks, combining these colors, and I had this whole plan. Well, like shortly after making that video, I was in my craft area, rummaging around, getting stuff packed up for the trip, and excuse me, I ran across a copy of this shawl pattern that I had made, and like a light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, yeah, this is what I should be doing with this yarn, not making socks. The pattern is called the Livy Shawl, and I actually started and finished this whole thing in New Zealand. So it's a pattern by Tammy Gore. You can see it's a 2-color shawl. It is asymmetrical, and it's kind of long and skinny. So I can wear it like a scarf. And in fact, when I blocked this, I soaked it, squeezed gently the extra water out, and then I just put it on the drying rack like this, knowing that the weight of the water and the yarn, this is superwash yarn, so it will stretch, would kind of make it longer, and that's what I wanted. So it's maybe even a little longer than normal. And I know it's a lot longer than when I originally finished it because of how I blocked it. So I've made this before, this pattern. And the one I made, I'm sure I shared on this channel whenever it was probably 2 years ago now, a year and a half. I don't remember. Anyway, I don't have it anymore. I gave it away to a friend. And I really like the pattern. It's engaging to knit. You know, there's something different enough going on frequently enough that it keeps you engaged, you know, so you're changing colors, or there's a few times where you're doing this yarn over pattern. There's a series of increases and decreases to get this V shape. And at one point, the pattern of increases and decreases shifts. So that's where you get the asymmetrical thing happening. So you eventually, this spine of the decreases eventually ends, and that's when you're done with a shawl. I think it would be easy to adapt to use more colors if you wanted. I actually have, somewhere in my stash, I have a skein of coordinating or matching basically like fingering weight yarn and some mohair silk that I think would be really beautiful in a sort of a tonal version. So the stripes would be more in the texture of the yarn than the actual color. So that may be in my future soon. But yeah, I think I've mentioned before that I have a hard time with wearing shawls. Like I don't always know how to style them. And what I like about this is that it can function more like a scarf. So it feels like something that's easier for me to wear. So it's long enough. I know I sound terrible. I'm really sorry. It's long enough I can do this with it, or I can, if I want to spread the fabric out a little more, I can kind of do this. But it's long enough it should stay on. Yeah, just all around a good pattern. And since I don't always successfully wear shawls, like if I have found a design that I know works, like I'll probably just knit that same one over and over, and that seems to be happening with this pattern. So yeah, I enjoy this, highly recommend. And one of the pluses here is that the colors, I don't know where the labels went. Look, I've been on a whole international trip, so some of those labels might be still in New Zealand. I don't even know. But I actually have a corduroy jacket I got at a thrift store years ago that goes really well with the lighter color here. And I've been wanting to figure out some kind of neckwear accessory that I could wear with that jacket. And this, I think, fits the bill. So that's a win. Okay. That's it for finished objects, but there's one more project that I was able to start at the very end of the trip that is now a work in progress. I've only got, I have 3 works in progress to show you. So one of them, this was a last minute thing I threw into my packing. I thought, I had this moment of panic, like, oh my gosh, what if I run out of stuff to knit on this trip? Like that would be the worst. So I threw in some Felici yarn. This is self-striping yarn from Knit Picks. I got this off a D-stash a few months ago. And this is the color Goth Kitty, which I very much enjoy. It's these bright pinks and with grays, so Goth Kitty totally works. And these socks are going to be a gift for somebody. So here's as far as I've gotten with the first one. I cast on 68 stitches with size 1 needles, which means it should be a little loose on my foot, so it should fit the recipient's foot just perfectly. I have gotten past a short row heel, and now I'm just working my way down the foot. So it's a pretty basic sock pattern, and I have stitch markers here to denote when I was done with the ribbing and when I stopped working the leg to do the heel and all that, because I like to have the exact same number of rows from one sock to the next. I'm not going to try to make sure the stripes match up. That's just a little too much for me, and I don't need socks to match perfectly in terms of the stripe sequence or the colors, but I do need the sizes to be the same. So that's how it works for me. My other work in progress is the socks for my son, which I did not bring along. I didn't want to bring along any works in progress. I just thought having stuff to start fresh so that I could maximize the knitting time. Like I didn't want to take up room with something that I've already partially finished. So I didn't pick these up again until we got back a couple of days ago. But since we've spent a little evening time watching the Lord of the Rings movie, the first one, we're watching the uncut version. So it's going to take at least 3 or 4 evenings to get through the whole thing. And pick this back up. So as a refresher, my son, of course, is graduating high school and starting college this fall. And I am knitting him a series of socks out of Knit Picks Hawthorne fingering weight because he likes the socks I've made him with that yarn. So we picked out a bunch of colors and ordered them together. So this is pair number 3. I'm a little behind on my 1 pair per month plan, but it's because we were traveling, so it's fine. So I need to finish these up and start the next ones, but this is the color Slab Town. So the first sock I got done already. The second sock I thought I might finish before we left. It didn't get done, and that's okay. I think because I was working really hard to get this sweater finished. But I'm pretty far into the second sock. I'm down on the foot. I've got probably 15 rounds to go or so before I start toe decreases. So this will not take long at all to finish. Yeah. So the color on this particular yarn is so interesting because it looks, you know, when I step back and look at it, it just looks like kind of mottled browns. But when you look at it up close, there's actually a lot of purple in it. I don't know if that'll show up very well in this light, but there's quite a lot of purple mixed with khaki and sort of golden brown. He picked it and he likes it, so yeah. This is about the 3rd pair I am doing with this particular stitch configuration. So I'm doing 1x1 ribbing for the top of the cuff. For the rest of the leg and the top of the foot, I am doing a garter rib, which seems to just hug the foot really nicely, even more than a 2x2 garter rib. And, you know, everything else is pretty standard sock. For his foot, I am casting on 68 or 66 stitches rather, with size 1.5 needle. And at this point, I've knit enough socks for his feet out of this yarn that I remember how many rounds to do for the foot length and everything, which is pretty nice actually, because I can just go. I don't have to worry about fit. Okay. I'm telling you, this stuff tastes terrible. Like the lemon flavor it still tastes like medicine, but I can tell that I'm not already the coughing. It's helping with the cough, so that's good. Okay, so my final work in progress is actually a combination of some yarn acquisition. I don't generally share acquisitions here because that's like my personal private business. It'd be kind of like opening my underwear drawer and just showing you what all my underwear looks like. Like my stash is my business. However, I did get some yarn in New Zealand. It was very exciting. I probably brought home more than I really needed to, but who knows if I'll ever get there again. Actually, my husband was like, oh, we should move here, but that would involve winning the lottery, I think, which is unlikely. So anyway, so I knew that I wanted to get some New Zealand specific yarn. I didn't necessarily have a plan other than I wanted to find yarn that was New Zealand specific, you know, using New Zealand wool, and in particular, I was looking for possum blends. And that's what I found. So I will show you, oh, here's my coast to coast label. All kinds of stuff in here. Let's see. Where do we start? I wasn't going to go out of my way to go yarn shopping. That's not the purpose of our family trip. Like, if it happened to be convenient, great. Otherwise, I wasn't going to worry about it. But there were 2 yarn shops that I found that I actually had time to go to. One in Wellington called Knitworthy, I think. No, not Knitworthy. Knit World, or World of Knit, something like that. And I mean, they had a pretty good selection and a lot of stuff to look at. So I'll show you what I got from there first. They have the brand Zielana. Here's one of the skeins I bought. Which, I think this is available in some places in the US. Like, this was not an unfamiliar brand to me. And what I got, they have several weights and blends of possum yarn. But if you are not familiar with what's going on with possums in New Zealand, I will tell you. And actually on the inside label, they have some information about it. So here's what it says. Not only does Zielana yarn make a great project greater, its production helps make New Zealand's ecosystem a lot healthier. To learn more about the impacts of non-native species and our nationwide efforts to sustainably manage New Zealand's brush-tail possum population, visit, and they have a website. So the brush-tail possum is an invasive creature. There's a teeny little drawing here. It looks cute, but don't be charmed. I think they might be native to Australia, but at some point when the British people were colonizing New Zealand, they decided to import possums to serve their own hunting purposes. Well, the trend of hunting possums did not last very long, but the population just absolutely exploded. And they're incredibly destructive. They eat a lot of the foliage, so they're harmful to plants, and they are competing with food sources, competing for food sources with other native animals to New Zealand. And they're omnivores. They will eat the eggs of a lot of native birds. And it's possible that they will also eat like baby birds too, not just the eggs. Anyway, they have been really destructive to the native plant and animal ecosystem of New Zealand, which is unique because it's an island. And so there's a lot of stuff that's evolved to be just there. So one of the benefits of culling these animals is that their fur is very, very soft and works very nicely as a blend with other fibers to make yarn. Which, as long as they have to get rid of them, I am happy to use the yarn. It's very soft. It's kind of, you can probably see in this especially, like it's a darker color, like the possums are sort of a dark brown or dark gray. So you can so all the yarn you get with their fiber in it is heathered looking or a little darker, kind of like yak blends tend to be. Like when you get a blend with yak in it, it will always be a little heathered or darker because that's the natural color of the fiber. So I bought 2 skeins each of this tan, very light tan, and this dark green. And because I'm like a broken record these days, I had started another Livy shawl. I wasn't precisely sure what I wanted to make with this yarn, but I enjoy this pattern. I had it along with me. I knew that if this is a shawl that I made, that I would wear it. So that's what I'm doing. And I started with the green as the main color. So that is my start. Each of these skeins is 40 grams and 167 yards. It's treated to be machine washable, which was not what I was looking for, but that's just how it is. I'm trying to find the fiber blend. It is 60% fine New Zealand merino and 40% brush-tail possum. So I don't plan to machine wash this, but it's good to know. There were a lot of different things to choose from, but I decided that given the price, it's a little pricier with the some of the possum yarns tend to be pricey for some reason. So I just, I didn't want to get like a whole ton of it. So I think this will be very nice. And these are colors. These are right in my wheelhouse. I love this green. Second to red, green is like my favorite color. So that's one thing I got at that shop in Wellington. New Zealand, there's like millions and millions of sheep there. There's like way more sheep than people. And the wool industry, I think they're raised for meat also, but the wool industry is a pretty big deal. So there are actually a lot of New Zealand wools. Many of them though were superwash, which I wasn't very interested in. But then I found at that same shop this one line of yarns that was New Zealand wool, not superwash, DK weight, and it was really inexpensive. Like the equivalent of maybe $3 a skein American. And now that I think about it, I kind of wish I bought a little more, but as it was, the space in my luggage was limited. So this is Woolly Red Hut, 8-ply DK weight, 100% pure New Zealand wool. So these are 50 grams, they're not huge skeins, but I got a red color. I got 2 skeins of this charcoal. I just want to show you all the colors I got. I got this lovely dark, also sort of a charcoal, but it's not heathered, it's almost blue. A natural cream. This is sandstone, so it's a sandy beige color, and then like a medium gray. So I don't plan to use all of these in the same project, but I think it would be nice to use like these natural colors together, maybe in a pair of colorwork mittens. I think the red is a great accent with any of these. And I also like how the non-heathered charcoal and the sandstone go together. Perhaps with the red, perhaps with the natural, perhaps with both. I don't know for sure. I didn't have specific, I don't like to buy yarns without specific plans. So this is breaking my rule a little bit, but I like the idea of having a woolly New Zealand yarn to make some colorwork things out of. It would be nice to make some things for my family. Maybe like when we went to Iceland and I bought yarn, I made mittens and then a hat for my kids. I think I might do that with this yarn. I could make mittens and maybe like a little gnome. They're teenagers, but they still find gnomes amusing. So anyway, that's that. But that is not all. Now, by the second week, we were on the South Island. We were in this little town on a lake. It was absolutely gorgeous. And by then, my son had been sick for several days. He'd kind of been going up and down, but the day we got there, he was just kind of like just needed to sleep, and I was starting to feel it. But I decided to check out this shop that had wool in it. So this was called, I can't remember what it was called. It was like Wools of Wanaka or something like that. And most of the store was actually ready-made garments. So they had a lot of merino and merino possum blend. You can find these everywhere in the gift shops, like gloves and hats and mitts and sweaters and things. But then they had a whole display of wool. So I looked around there, and then I went back a couple days later after I had thought about what I wanted to get. And I came home with 2 sweater quantities, which is kind of excessive, but like, this is not yarn I have ever seen in the States. So it's kind of like, if I don't get it now, can't get it. So one of them this is called Brush Tail Upcycled Possum Merino. They had it in 2 weights. They had fingering weight or DK, and I decided to get fingering weight. I had to think for a little while about what color, because they had a few different nice colors, and I landed on the red because it's just the perfect red. It looks like it's made in Christchurch. What I liked about this is that It's made from fabric offcuts and virgin possum fur and merino wool. So I think at least some of the yarn is made from stuff that otherwise just would have gotten thrown away. But it's this beautiful heathery red color. 50 grams has 200 meters. I got plenty of this, and I want to make, if the gauge works out, I want to make the Tanea sweater by Elizabeth Doherty. I've heard great things about her patterns. Have never made one, and I really like this one. It's a very classic cardigan with some texture, I think cables down the front, and that is my intention with this yarn, with this one. The other yarn I got at this shop was, this is called Naturally, New Zealand made, big natural. Not the most sophisticated like branding, right? But this is a big honkin' skein. This is 150 grams. It's DK weight. It actually smells like a sheep. Like it smells a little bit like when you were actually around sheep, you know, in a barn or something. It smells a little bit like sheep shit, like in a good way. They had a bunch of natural colors, but this is what I had to bring home because the other colors they had were like, they were sort of a cream and sort of an oatmeal, like colors that are very easy to find. You know, if you're looking for natural wool, undyed wool, those colors are pretty easy to find. I do not have as good luck finding like a really good charcoal, like undyed natural charcoal. Browns, yes. Gray, no. So that is what I decided to come home with. So I've got 4 skeins of this. Each one is 315 yards. So that should be plenty for a sweater. And I am as yet undecided as to what design to make. I'm kind of in a cardigan place right now. So the 2 that I was thinking of, there's the Horology sweater by Kate Davies. I love that design. I've been trying to figure out what yarn would be best for that. That's got a beautiful cable going down the fronts of the cardigan, down the back, and then also down the sleeve. I think it's a top-down raglan construction. My hesitation is that I'm not sure how well cables will show up in this dark color. So I should probably swatch and figure that out, huh? The other possibility might be the Hesper cardigan by Amy Christoffers. That came out pretty recently. She also has a Hesper shawl with the same colorwork pattern, so it kind of looks like a quilted star, and I think it's all in mosaic. But in the cardigan that goes around the top of the yoke. And if I used like Utopia Helix DK, which is one of those multicolored kind of spin cycle style gradient or color changing variegated yarns, that could look really striking with this. But I haven't totally decided. I think I need to swatch and make sure my gauge is right with this, and also see if cables show up, because cables is really, I haven't done enough cables lately, and that's really my first love when it comes to different kinds of knitting patterns. So I think my voice is about to give out, so I should probably just stop there. I will tack some photos and little snippets of footage at the end of this if you're interested in seeing some of the scenery that we saw in New Zealand. But that's it for now, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.